Hi guys, in today's video I'm going to show you how I made this Paw Patrol Mighty Movie cake. So I took my niece to see the film last weekend, she loved it, and I know I've made Paw Patrol stuff before, I thought definitely do something from the new movie. So a big thank you to Paramount Pictures for actually asking me to create this video. So they hired me to create this one. So even better still, I got paid to make it. Now, I love the pups in the new movie. They're quite detailed though, so I wanted to go fairly big. So we've got some internal structures that I did have to make and food safe. Also Rice Krispie treats. I'm going to bulk them out a little bit with Rice Krispie treats so that I'm not making them out of solid like modeling paste or modeling chocolate. Just be careful, they can be quite hot when you first make them. So the body's roughly shaped, the head roughly shaped in the Rice Krispies, and then I'm gonna cover the whole thing in modeling chocolate. I'm just doing it very roughly at first, and then what we'll do is go over the top of all these bodies and heads afterwards with modeling chocolate in the correct colors. And the characters in the film, I love the characters, I love the designs. I mean, I like the design of the original Paw Patrols anyway, but they are so detailed, like you see every hair and everything on them. So there was a lot of detail to get on these, which is why I wanted to go a little bit larger than I would for my average cake topper as well. So once I've got all of the pups roughed out, so I did the 7 main ones from the film, I then wanted to cover them. So we're gonna go over in a bit more detail. So let's start with Skye. So covering the faces, here you see me working on Zuma, adding in those eye sockets. So I did need to keep the paste quite thin because obviously we've created the main bit underneath in modeling chocolate. I could have just done it fully in modeling chocolate and then colored it with like food colors and things afterwards, but I like to use the ready colored pastes over the top. So really sculpting in now with a bit more detail the face features like the nose, the muzzle. Hopefully making them look a little bit more like the characters that they're supposed to be than what they looked like a few minutes ago. Now I realized like in this video, it looks like it was really quick to do. So I had to give them hairlines because like I say, they're way more detailed in this film than what they are in the like original cartoon, which looks great, but takes a while to put all those little hairlines on. Then the eyes, and the eyes are gonna be what kind of makes them look a lot like the characters. Hopefully, hopefully it will. So some of them had like little masks on, superhero masks, some not, but eyes need to go on all of them. Let's get some little under eyelids as well, the bottom eyelids. And each of them have like a little dark bit on their lip, which I guess my dog in real life does as well. Let's get some teeth in on Rubble. He also needs that little dark line. So it's just modeling paste, just rolled it nice and thin. Now I realize, guys, I'm showing you this very sped up. See if you can guess how many hours it took me all together to make all 7 of these dogs. It took a long time. See if you can guess, comment below with how many hours you think this took. So the nose is nice and simple on each one, and then just add a bit of texture with my piping nozzle. And then again, just going on with some more details like around the edge of the eyes. So got them all to that stage, then it's ready to add like the iris and pupils, which I rolled thinly out of modeling paste again. And then I just kind of went over with the edible pens. So they are edible pens that I'm using, guys, for this. I did try painting it on with food coloring, but I'm really bad at painting a circle, so it was easier to cut the circle out in paste and then add more detail. Add a highlight of white to each eye, which I think really brings the eyes to life, and they always have this little highlight of white where the light looks like it catches on the cartoon characters as well. Have to make sure I don't forget eyebrows and eyelashes. So they're starting to take shape a lot more now. Next, I worked on adding some thinly rolled black modeling paste to any parts that were supposed to be black, so like their legs and sometimes around their neck. Then when that was done, I could add the paws. Just nice and simple, 2 semicircles with a couple little lines pressed in for toes. And of course we need to texture those, which I remembered to do for most of them. Not for all of them, but for most. Then on with the helmets. This was the bit that I was a little bit worried about. Each of them have got like a different helmet and a different outfit. But I put the paste on first and then kind of just pressed it and cut it to shape once it was on the head.
and then added all the extra details. So Rubble's helmet, I have seen the movie and I didn't notice it in the movie until I was looking at the pictures to create this figure of him. It's actually like a boulder, so I textured it to look a bit more stone and boulder-like and then added the details. And of course, some of them have masks as well as like the helmet. So again, it's just putting on all those extra details. I would have liked to have tried to do it in a bit more detail, but I had 7 of them to do. So there was quite a lot of work in there. If I'd had more time to spend on them, I would have tried to shade them a little bit more and add even more details. And sometimes the details I put on were not exactly the same as on the film. And then of course they all need their little superhero outfits. Each one of them again has a slightly different outfit. Sometimes I colored them in with pens, sometimes I stuck the pieces on in modeling paste. And I started with the front of each of them first and then worked on the back end afterwards. I know my niece's favourite character out of the pups is definitely Skye. Aeroplane going over. I like Marshall best, I think. Of course, they all need their little Paw Patrol logo on the front. Just give Skye some hair and then add a bit of shading with some edible powder colour. They're all going to need ears. So I've just put the hairlines in with a modeling tool. I did have to let the ears firm up a little bit before adding the extra detail like the coloured powder. And also drawing on in the edible pens for Marshall's little Dalmatian spots. And of course, just finishing them all off with a little bit of white on the nose. I'm using an edible pen there for that. So they are all ready to go on the cake. So I made them in advance of the cake. And now next, the logo. I really wanted to include gingerbread somewhere on here. So it would be nice to have a giant gingerbread biscuit or gingerbread cookie for the logo for this one. And I'm going to ice it in a mix of fondant and also some royal icing on there too. I'm not very good with royal icing, so some of the easier parts I piped on with royal icing, and then some of the shapes that were a little bit trickier I cut out of fondant. Some of the thicker parts I actually used modeling chocolate for, as I thought that might taste nicer than just using thick pieces of fondant. I actually really did enjoy making the logo for this, and I loved that it was such a large cookie. So the details really brought it to life as well. I used little letter cutters that I had for the small bits of writing, and then I tried to use a template that I created for the larger letters. And I made a back for the logo as well as a front so that I can stick this into the cake later. It's just stuck together with some chocolate ganache. It weighs a lot. Okay, so the next bit was the writing. I did try to freehand draw these out, so I maybe could have done them a little bit neater, but there we go. I always find making the letters quite difficult. So next, on with the cake. So I've done most of the things that take me a little while, which means now I can do the cake, because that needs to be done as close to the end as possible so that it stays fresh. I'm going to make a variety of buildings or skyscrapers so that they look like they're in the background. So I'm sandwiching them all together with some buttercream. And I'm doing them all while they're laid flat, and I'll stand them up later. Just scrape off any excess buttercream. So they're gonna have to have a layer of ganache, which is just chocolate and cream mixed together or melted together to create ganache. This is gonna firm up our cakes. We're gonna stand these up later for the buildings. They're not gonna stay laying down. So I need to put a layer of ganache all the way around. It will set firm. And you can do a variety of different shaped buildings for this, whatever you fancy, but you do need to try and smooth it off as much as possible so that when we put the fondant on them later, it lays on there nice and flat. I'm going to try and roll the fondant as thin as I can for this as well. And then we're just going to smooth it down and try and sharpen the edge with some smoothers. And it is important on these buildings that we do the back as well as the front because you're going to see them around the back of the cake. So we're going to make sure they look nice on the back too. Then we can add detailing. You can play around with what details you want. I didn't do exact buildings from the film. I kind of just looked at images of the skyscrapers from the film, and then I tried to put some bits in that were on the buildings, but to be honest, I mainly just made it up as I went along. But they really sort of came to life a bit more when I started adding the fondant detailing. Again, trying to keep it fairly thin because it quickly builds up as this fondant, and you don't want too much fondant too thick on there. And then I'm gonna just add some color. These are edible powdered colors that I've got, and I'm just dusting them on there just to try and give those buildings a little bit more detail. Next, I'm going to cover my cake board, and I'm going to push that logo that I made, that gingerbread one, into the base. Let's just stick the on the top of the Mighty movie. Don't want to forget that bit. And then we can stick this in place. And this bit, guys, this bit we're not going to eat, which is why I wanted to do the logo as the gingerbread biscuit, and then our houses can go in place carefully, and we're going to be able to eat all these houses. You do need to make sure they have firmed up, that the ganache has set before trying to stand them up. And that tall one that I added has got some internal support that supports it to about halfway up, because that building would be too tall to stand on it on its own, and the cake would want to collapse. The smaller ones, there's no internal support. They're fairly rigid just with the ganache on their own. Just be careful putting them in place though. You can stick them to the board with a bit of melted ganache as well. This one actually isn't traveling anywhere, so I haven't stuck them down, but if I move it around a lot, there's a chance those buildings might fall over. Okay, so let's get our pups on there. Let's start with Rubble. Actually, he might be my favourite character. Next, Zuma. Liberty. Chase. Marshall. And Rocky. So there they all are on the cake. Oh no, I forgot Skye. Wait. And last but not least, Skye. Do you guys have a favourite Paw Patrol? Did I ask that already? I can't remember. Actually, do you know what? I think I'm changing my mind from Marshall to Rubble. He's my favourite. And look, it lights up. It took me a while to work out how to do that, guys. So there it is, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really did have fun making it. I also had fun going to watch the movie as well. I know my niece absolutely loved it. You maybe might want to do a slightly scaled down version if you decide you want to make one for your own birthday or your kid's birthday, because this one took a while, but I really did enjoy it. And I hope you guys enjoyed watching. Go check out the new Paw Patrol, the Mighty movie in cinemas now. Hope you enjoyed this one, guys. Sorry I didn't get to show you the full process, but it took me 7 long days to make this one, so I tried to condense it as much as possible. And let's cut into it. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one.